Right, we are back. Another episode of Your Relationship Sucks! Exclamation point here. That we are breaking down questions from around the world, helping people just get better at being in relationships, learn from our mistakes, all of those kinds of things. Again, I haven't, just as a reminder, I haven't seen any of these. I don't know what's coming. You're going to break it down to me. You're going to let me know what's going on. We'll figure it out. We'll talk it out here. So this is all off the cuff. This is all, this is all live in studio with a live studio audience. I have some clapping and some laughing at some point, but we can get into it. So let's break it down. Let's start with let's start with first impressions here. So hit me with it. What's the question for today?
It is, I'm pregnant and my husband cheated with our sister-in-law. So I think it's
what?
I know this is going to be really confusing, but what I've gathered, which I do think is, I think it's his brothers or like someone, it's neither one of them are related to the sister-in-law, but I think it's like his brother's wife or something. Does that make sense?
Okay. All right. Initial impressions here is this is complicated. This is a complicated situation. That's my initial impression here. I don't even understand what's happening yet. I'll be honest with you. Like, based on what you've told me so far, I literally don't know what's happening. Other than this woman is pregnant and this dude isn't into her. I don't know. Other than that, I literally don't know what's happening. Okay.
I'm not sure if it's going to be like clear enough to your standards.
Okay. Well, so that's not great, but okay.
I'm interested in how you'll emotionally deal with that as we progress through.
Okay. All right.
Let's start.
Okay.
I can't even believe I'm writing this. If you'd asked me if I thought this would ever be me, I'd bet my life that I'd never be going through this.
Okay.
My husband and I have been together 10 years, married for 3. I had 100% trust in him and was more than confident he'd never be one of those guys who'd cheat. My sister-in-law, if you want to call her that, her and brother-in-law are engaged and have been on and off for the 6 years they've been together.
Okay.
And my husband began being close after he started working with her delivering.
She said that the brother-in-law and the sister-in-law have been on and off engagement for 6 years? Or they've been on and off for 6 years and now they're finally
currently engaged, but I think they've been on and off for 6 years. So she's giving the full amount of time.
Yeah, I'm with you. Okay, that makes sense.
And then the husband and the sister-in-law started being close like when he began working with her and delivering. I don't really know what that means. My mother-in-law also worked there. They'd all often go out bowling or out to eat after work with other coworkers. I also had a close relationship with her. I loved her like a sister. Some other family and friends could never stand her, but I really try to see the good in everyone and try not to have problems with everyone. The closeness of my husband and sister-in-law's relationship started bothering me in August. I was assured it was nothing inappropriate. I'm not proud of this, but I turned his location on his Snapchat his Snapchat location at this point.
Man, I just had another hardworking, just male role model taken down by technology. God damn it. When will this stop? When will this stop? Unbelievable. Keep going. Okay, keep going.
I just had a gut feeling. I started monitoring it, but he'd always been exactly where he was supposed to be, so I dropped it. In early September, my husband got a new job, and I felt much better. Late September, brother and sister-in-law broke up yet again. But my husband kept hanging out with my mother-in-law and other coworkers from his old job. It bothered me, but I tried not to be the psycho, crazy, controlling wife. Also, in early September, we found out we were pregnant with our second child. We already have a 5-year-old together. He never wanted a second, but it happened. I was terrified to tell him. I started crying, saying he was going to hate me and want to leave. To my surprise, he hugged me and acted happy. Last week of October, he turned off his Snapchat location and I started panicking. I should have brought it up, but I didn't. If I did, none of this might have happened, but I know I can't blame myself. November 2nd, I got a text from him saying he was going bowling after work with the old coworkers and that he felt we needed a break because he wasn't happy.
Okay. All right. This is
I was taken completely by surprise. I didn't know where this was coming from. When he got home, we talked for 5 hours and he admitted shortly after finding out I was pregnant, he began panicking. He really did not want a second child. He also said he feels like his friends don't like him, that he's tired of this pandemic. He feels inadequate at work and feels like he isn't knowledgeable enough and that he fears he'll never be successful enough, etc. He said he has been feeling depressed and suicidal for the past couple of months and that he had been confiding in the sister-in-law about everything. I asked if anything was going on and he said no. I said, I swear to God, if anything happens with her, you will regret it and hate yourself. It might feel good and exciting and new in the moment, but you will regret it for the rest of your life. Not to mention your whole family would hate you too. He said he knows. By the end of the night, he told me he felt much better and that he remembered why he fell in love with me and that he had no idea why he waited so long to talk to me about his feelings. So I'm like, okay, November 2nd, sorry. I'm trying to figure out the dates. The next month was great. He didn't ever go out with the ex-coworkers anymore, and he was being more gentle with my feelings. Things were good. Out of nowhere, Tuesday morning, I get a call from him shortly after he gets to work. I need to tell you something. I cheated. I'm coming home now. I hung up. He kept calling back. I started having a panic attack. I asked who, and he said, I think you know who. I've asked every detail I could think of. It wasn't an emotional thing. He didn't have feelings. He doesn't know why he did it. He was in a dark place. She started flirting through Snapchat the last couple of days of October, and he reciprocated. Things got sexual. She started sending him nudes. He went to a Halloween party. I worked overnight. Our son stayed with my parents. She called him and said to leave the party and come over, that she was home alone. He drove there and they had sex. He wore a condom. There was no foreplay. Lights were completely off. He tried to leave before anything started multiple times, but she kept saying, no, stay. He said he hated himself before, during, and after.
Oh, keep going. Oh, this is great. This is fantastic. Okay.
So I don't understand why he went through. When he told me he wanted to break up on November 2nd, 2 days after it happened, it was because of guilt, but he still was too scared to come clean. They both stopped talking after that. All this week, I've been getting 4 hours of sleep every night. I've lost 8 pounds. Oh, that's not good for a pregnant lady. I randomly have panic attacks throughout the day. Of course, my husband is saying all the right things, that he doesn't know why he took so long to realize what he has, that he wants to be a good dad and husband. He's excited for our baby, that he took what he had for granted for so long. He hates himself. He'll never forgive himself, that I did absolutely nothing wrong. I've never been short of amazing, that he hates her. He feels like she took advantage of him when she knew he was weak and vulnerable, that he knows he doesn't deserve me, that he had the perfect wife and life and threw it all away for nothing. I was betrayed by someone I truly believe deep down in my core was my soulmate, love of my life. I was betrayed by my sister-in-law, who I thought was one of my closest friends. I also now feel betrayed by my mother-in-law because she is still best friends with the sister-in-law, which is odd because this is like a daughter, I guess a daughter figure that presumably like cheated or like with one side, like one son with the other son's ex? Okay, I'm just making sure. Uh, yeah, okay. She went out to get nails done with her the day after me and her found out everything. Never even asked how I was. It's embarrassing, but I can't stop having sex with him. I always imagine if this would happen to me, I'd be burning his clothes and hammering his PS4. I used to think that women who stayed were crazy.
What? She's still banging this guy? She's still banging her
Yeah,
husband?
that's what she said. It's embarrassing, but I can't stop having sex with him.
Okay, all right. Are they still living together? I'm confused. I don't even. I lost track of who
Yeah,
this lady was. Okay, so still okay. Okay, all right. Keep going.
I
Okay,
think so.
okay.
I want to stay, but I don't think I can. I keep playing the movies in my head, and I don't think they'll ever leave. I don't believe it will ever happen again, but I also believed it could never happen the first time either. I feel embarrassed, stupid, gullible. Sorry this was long. I don't know how to condense it anymore.
Um,
So there's no actual
this is just a rant. This is just a
question.
lady. This is just a lady ranting. You don't
Yeah,
know how to
but
condense
like,
it more. That's really not that difficult to condense a lot of this down, right? Like you gave a lot of detail there, maybe too much detail. Maybe this is actually the first time I think when I've had too much detail to work with. Like I didn't need all of this detail. Um, here's the thing. If you're putting location finding services on your significant other, it means you don't trust them. Okay? Like that's just an objective fact. That's across the board 100%. It 100% means that you do not trust your partner.
yeah.
Okay? Now, any number of reasons for that, any people to blame, yada yada, all these different things, doesn't matter. If you're tracking their location, means you don't trust them, right? I know plenty of people who trust each other who don't have the location tracking services. Some of those people shouldn't trust each other. Some of those people are justified in trusting each other. It doesn't matter. Either way, they do feel that sense of trust. They don't do it. All the people I know who don't trust each other have location services on each other. Quick tip to the fucking cheaters out there: stop having apps on your phone. Seems pretty fucking basic, right? Or at least go into all of them and make sure your location service is off. Like that's, I mean, this is real basics type shit. But bad job by that guy. Also, could have been a red flag because I'm assuming he didn't turn those location services on. So he goes in, he sees they're off, and so he's probably on you, right? That happens in October. And then you're telling me that some of this other stuff is happening. I'm going, well, yeah, this fucking guy figured it out that you were following it, right? He figured that shit out.
Well, no, I think that could have been that she didn't have it on Snapchat. It's on by default
No,
unless
she
you
said
turn it off.
in there. She said she went in and she turned on his location services on Snapchat. She said that she turned his on and that he turned it off.
I guess I missed it.
That's a
that she
that's,
did it. I thought she
that's a
meant she
flag.
just like turned hers on so she could see where he was.
I don't. That's not how I read it. That's not how I. Or that's not how I heard
think
it.
you might be right. I'm
Here's
gonna
the thing.
reread this novel.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. I don't think I've ever really found it useful for people to ask a lot of questions about the specific act. Seems like a weird thing to do.
You were right, by the way.
Like, let me ask a bunch of questions about the act. But here's what I heard about that act, okay? Here's what I heard. These are her specific words, okay? This may not be verbatim, but this is what I remember from what she said. She said a lot of words, maybe too many words. If she can't condense it down, she sounds like a real fucking nightmare to have a conversation with. What she said was, there was no foreplay. He wore a condom. He didn't like it before, during, or after, and he tried to stop it multiple times. No, he didn't. No, that's just not true. That's just 100% inaccurate. There's literally no way that's fucking possible. No foreplay and a condom would mean he was just in there, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, like, let's get it over with. Tried to stop her multiple times. You don't just all of a sudden succumb to that without her doing something for you, right? Like, there's no way, unless she's just standing in the room. This guy didn't leave. He didn't do anything. What I'm telling you, here's what I'm telling you. Those facts don't add up to someone who didn't want to do that. That's it. They don't add up to that. Okay? They don't add up to that. Now, this guy admitted that he cheated. Okay? He admits guilt.
Yep.
He admits all of those things. Now, if he's actually depressed, if he's suicidal, call somebody. Call somebody about it. Go in, go find some professional help. Don't listen to me. Go find some actual professional help. Figure out what's at the core of your thing. But then, here's what this guy's telling me. He's saying, this was a guy who was depressed. Whatever, and again, I'm going to say depressed. Like, he said he was depressed. I don't think he was depressed, because if he was actually depressed, it doesn't seem like something that you just kind of snap out of. You know what I mean? It kind of sounds like he snapped out of it real quick here. So there might be something underlying kind of going on, but it sounds like he was just sad, right? He was frustrated. He was stressed. There was just a lot of stuff going on. He felt overwhelmed, right? That's different than depression.
Yeah.
Right? I don't think he was clinically depressed. Now, if he was, again, go find your shit, but we're just going to assume for the sake of this that he was not clinically depressed, because this doesn't sound like somebody who was clinically depressed. So he was doing a lot of shit for somebody who was clinically depressed. He was getting out of bed.
Depression isn't an excuse to cheat on your wife. So.
Well, no, 100%, but I'm saying he was getting out of bed a lot for somebody who was fucking clinically depressed, right? I mean, this dude is getting up, doing his thing. This motherfucker got a new job in the middle of a pandemic. That's not something you do if you're fucking clinically depressed. I'm sorry. Like, it's just not. Like, you're not a real go-getter when you're fucking depressed, right? So I'm going to guess that he was just overwhelmed. He was sad. He was feeling all this shit, whatever. He's like, my life wasn't not turning out the way I wanted to, all that stuff, okay? And by the way, I'm not even saying he likes this other woman. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying he wasn't pumped about his current situation. Here's the deal. This guy is overwhelmed. He's finding a job. He's doing the stuff. He's going out. He's cheating on Halloween, I guess. He's like cheating on his wife. All these different things. And then you said that what he's telling you after he says, like, hey, I admit it, I did all this stuff, whatever, we used a condom, all these weird questions that you wanted the answer to. I guess some people think that's like going to help. I don't think it's going to help you. Like, I'm not like don't ask him. I'm just saying, like, don't expect those to be useful, right? Like, that tells you nothing.
I mean, it seems like it contributed to as the movie's playing,
yeah,
and
100%,
like she's contributed to there being a movie because she knows too many details.
Right, and she, so if you're like, hey, did you use a condom? Like, that's one thing, right? You're like, hey, does she have a disease? Like, all this, I get that, but like, was there foreplay? Doesn't fucking mean anything. Foreplay doesn't mean a goddamn thing, right? Like, that doesn't help you. You can get all of that from did you use a condom, right? Because that's what matters. Did you use a condom? That's what, from a safety standpoint. All the other shit that you asked, none of that fucking matters from a safety standpoint, right? It just doesn't. So it's just you saying a lot of stuff because you're trying to figure out what's happening. I get it. I understand that you want to know, and like you have the stuff, and it's like whatever, I got to feel the pain or whatever bullshit you're saying in your head. I'm not saying you're wrong. I probably do the same thing. I'm just saying from my experience with people that I've heard and talked about this type of stuff, that's not really going to be useful, right? But here's the thing. What he has said is, I understand that I had the perfect life and the perfect wife, and I gave it up, right? And that's kind of sounds like that sort of talk, which, look, you're still having sex with them, whatever. You've been in love with the guy for like 10 years. I mean, whatever, I mean, people like to have sex. What are you going to do? Yeah. That part's not that weird. You know what I mean? I mean, like, yeah, it would be better if you were like, hey, maybe let's not have sex while I'm mad at you or whatever. Like, that's fine if that's what you want to do. But if also you just want to be like, all right, I want to have sex and I'm going to leave you anyways or whatever, like, do your thing. Like, who cares? That's a different thing. I know they're kind of intertwined, but that's a different thing. But it sounds like what is kind of keeping this woman is him saying, like, I know that I'm giving up like this wife and this life and all this stuff. Nothing you said before that gave me the impression that that's how he fucking felt. A depressed guy doesn't fucking feel that way. So you get some things going on here, right? Like, you have these contradictory stories, okay? Now, I'm in agreement with you. Real weird that this guy's mom is like, hey, what's up? Not a big deal that you're banging these other people, unless they're going out to dinner or bowling or whatever the fuck they were doing. And this mom is like, you know what? Like, I don't think it's good for, David to be with this girl. But honestly, if John over here would leave his wife, I think they would be a great match. Maybe she's hatching the plan, right? Maybe she's got some, some mastermind situation going on.
Yeah, it sounds like the mother-in-law was not shocked it happened at any rate. So she probably saw it the likelihood that it like would occur.
Yeah, and so, you know, so look, like, I'm in agreement with you, but it kind of sounds like she was more like, you know, like maybe, hey, let's speed this up. Like,
Yeah.
let's get the ball rolling here. Here's like just kind of my general take on this whole thing. This lady wants to sound very reasoned, right? She doesn't want to sound mad. That's the thing, right? She wants this, like, this is someone who obviously wants to logic her way through all these things. And I respect that. I'm, as somebody who tries to be logical about a lot of things, like, I respect trying to logic through, let me get all the cold hard facts and let me look at this objectively. I respect that. The problem is the facts that you're presenting to me aren't logical. These are illogical facts, right? And so if you're taking them on face value, which it kind of sounds like you are, and I'm not even saying that you're not skeptical. I'm just saying that, like, you're saying this is the story, and I'm saying that's not the fucking story. That's what he told you, but that's not the fucking story, right? So I can't tell if you believe it or not. So what you need to first figure out is, do you believe his story? Like, all of his story. Do you believe it? Because I don't. I just flat out don't. I just don't. Somebody who's like, you know, hey, I did whatever. I mean, he's a grown-ass man. Unless this woman is, like, physically overpowering to him, he could have left, right? He could have left. And I get it. If he's sad and she's saying some stuff or whatever, he could have left. He could have gone somewhere else, all of those things. That doesn't sound to me like somebody who didn't want to be there, right? Some part of him wanted to be there. I don't know what to tell you, you know, and it sucks. And I get it. And again, I'm not saying it's your fault or whatever, but also let me address that point real quick. She said, hey, I know it's not my fault. Maybe it is your fault, okay? I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying, like, don't fucking absolve yourself before we know all the facts here. Because your story's not fucking adding up in the first place. Like, this whole goddamn diatribe that you went on, this fucking 17-page dissertation on why your fucking marriage is falling apart, didn't make any fucking sense. So don't absolve yourself of oh, this guy cheated or whatever. Guess what? Maybe you did have something to do with that, okay? I'm not saying it's your fault. I'm not saying that you forced him to do it. I'm not saying he doesn't share the lion's share of the blame, right? That he shouldn't shoulder most of the guilt. But I also don't know that you didn't do anything, okay? I'm not saying you did. I'm saying don't just dismiss that outright, because if you don't dismiss it, then you're never going to get down to, like, what actually happened. Is this important? Is this something that either we can work on, which it kind of sounds like she wants to, or is it not? And if you don't know what your part is, this is the whole point. I'm not mad at this woman for saying, like, it wasn't my fault that I got cheated on. That's fine. What I'm saying is, if you want to say that, fine. But if you want to have a healthy relationship with this guy or the next person, then you need to understand what you do wrong in relationships as well, so that you can talk about those things and have that communication and understand that those are pitfalls that you bring to the relationship. So now you know what to look out for, either with this guy or the next guy.
Yeah.
But you also have things that you might bring to the situation. And if you're just absolving yourself, you're not being self-aware enough to understand what is it that you do wrong that might cause issues for the other person. I'm not saying how the other person reacts is right. I'm saying you might be causing issues for the other person, and that's something that you have to pay attention to, right? I don't know. Does that make sense? Does that make me sound like a fucking sexist or something? I don't know. I have no idea.
The other thing I was thinking about while you were saying that is, in this whole thing where she got into a lot of detail, she never once.
This woman got into a lot of detail. Like, she remembers a lot. Did she fucking write this down? Do you think she took notes? Honestly, like, before you get into your point, do you think that she took notes during that conversation? Because she was very specific about a lot of this shit.
Yeah. There was a lot of dates. She had to have actually, like, with all the dates, she had.
I'm talking, like, genuinely, dates. Like, she very, like, I'm talking, like, during the conversation, she must have literally been taking notes, no? Or recording or something. Like, this is some very specific shit. She had, like, 7 different, like, direct quotes from him about like 3 different conversations.
Yeah, like, she journals right after or something, because she has very specific dates. Like, which,
honestly, I respect her for that. Anyways, keep going. I needed to point that out, because that was bothering
I wanted to, if your spouse is telling you, like, you're depressed, like, to me, it doesn't seem like she was worried about why he didn't come to her.
Oh, she's not worried about that at all. She doesn't give a fuck.
Which is something that a lot of people care about. They're like, why didn't you feel comfortable? Which is something reflected in what you're saying. she also didn't seem too concerned that he actually had depression. Like if he was saying he was depressed, she wasn't like, we've got, you know, we went to a therapist, you know, I'm really worried. So if like if you are worried about someone who's depressed and they're saying, if you care about someone, they're saying whether he is or he isn't, obviously he didn't feel like himself. He wasn't talking to you. She's not concerned that this is like a thing that she should support him in. And I'm not saying, I'm not saying she should support him in the cheating. I'm just saying, you know, they've been together for 10 years. And if she wants to stay with him, which she has said, like, maybe she does, she thought she would leave, but she hasn't, then you should be very concerned why your spouse doesn't talk to you about things that are hard for them. And beyond cheating, like take cheating out of it. You know, you can have a separate conversation and be like, that was the end result. Why couldn't you talk to me? What am I doing that you don't feel I'm approachable? And the answer could be, I don't, you know, her husband can say something, I don't like being vulnerable. I don't like being seen as vulnerable to you. And that's not really necessarily something wrong with her, but that conversation needs to happen now that it's there. The other thing that like was weird to me, and I do want to point out, she was very worried her husband was going to leave her the moment they found out that they got pregnant, which
he obviously lied about the kid, right? Like when she was like, oh, he took it better. That dude was fucking terrified.
So
he
like
was pissed.
he lied, and that's not healthy. But also like it sounds like the way he internalized it was to blame her. Women get pregnant, but they cannot get pregnant without sperm. If that is something he does not want, get a fucking vasectomy. Like, you know what I mean? Like if that is something he's really, really upset about, like then he should have done things. Like he's clearly not wearing a condom with his wife then.
Hold on. I'm gonna give you, can you see this? Can you see what I just gave you?
I can see it. I don't know if it's recorded.
I have no idea if other people can do it, but first of all, that's the first time that I've seen you get fired up like I get fired up on any of the shows that we've done. Like any of the shows that we've done, it's the first time I've seen it. And secondly, that was a great point. And so for people who may not have been able to see it, that was some Yas Queen tributes that I was giving to you right there. 100%. You got very fired up. Like your face literally changed. Like if you watch that back, like you literally, your face changed. You started to look like me, where like you kind of black out, like you're not listening to anybody else. You're just fucking saying words. Like you're getting real mad, and all of a sudden you start looking at the camera, and it's like what you're seeing is like the person that you're actually talking to. Like you're not seeing me, but you're like actually seeing this lady or this guy, and you're like screaming at this dude. I really respect 100% everything you just did. I love that. We should see way more of that. 100%. I totally agree with you, by the way. Like that's a great point. This dude lied to you. Like she heard what she wanted to hear, right? Like she heard what she wanted to hear. She did it, and he, you know, honestly, the conversation was probably like this. You know, she was probably like, "Hey, I'm pregnant," and his first reaction was like, And she was like, "Oh, not as bad as I thought," right? Like she was like, "Oh, right, like that went way better than I thought it was." You know, and on the inside, he was like, "Oh, I wonder how quickly and easily it would be for me to murder this woman." You know what I mean? Like that's what he was thinking.
Yeah.
But she thought he was gonna say that out loud. You know, and she's like, "Hey, he didn't even mention killing me," so like that was great. You know, like that's what basically this. That's what it sounds like. What happened, right? Like this is a guy who is not ready for that. Honestly, probably kind of fucking depressed that he's having a second kid. You know what I mean? Like he's feeling that's a lot of stress, anxiety, like all that stuff. I don't know how much he was making his old job, but maybe he was like, if this old job is not good enough, I want to bang this woman anyways, but now I'm not making enough money. Like I need to switch jobs, or like I need to do. Well, I don't know. There could be anything, but a lot of this obviously is tied to this kid, right? Just like, again, the stress of having a second kid and all this stuff, like a lot of that stuff is happening. This lady heard what she wanted to hear, not what he actually said, is my guess. She probably didn't take notes during that particular meeting. And so that's the kind of thing where like this is someone who needs to look at themselves, right? Like all of this, like if you listen to all this and what you take away from this is like, oh, well, you know, this fucking clown is on this guy's side, right? Like then you didn't hear what I said, right? Like, yeah, this guy's a piece of shit. I don't know what to tell you. Like this is not like, this show is not about us calling people pieces of shit for being pieces of shit, right? It's very obvious who's wrong in this situation, right? I'm trying to help this lady to tell her, like, she didn't even ask a question, but like, how does she get out of something like this? Well, if you want to be with him or you want to be with somebody else, then you need to figure out what it is you're bringing to the relationship that's allowing somebody else to, number one, not communicate with you correctly, understand how you're not communicating very well, and then what kind of things are you doing that's putting pressure on other people? What kind of pressure points can you maybe help to alleviate or talk about or understand? Hey, these are pressure points that they're causing, that I'm causing them, and they're not feeling heard, and all those things. The same things you're feeling about this cheating, there's probably some stuff for you too. And what I'm saying is, if you're going to have this conversation, yeah, for a while it might be about his cheating, but eventually it's going to be about the things that you do wrong, because he's going to feel ganged up on, right? He's going to be like, oh, so everything, it's always my fault. I'm telling you, that's what's going to happen. And so, yeah, for a while you could figure this out, but if you can get ahead of it and talk about, hey, I know I'm doing some things wrong too, and so I'm going to try and work on some of this stuff, or whatever. We could talk about some of that. Obviously, we need to fix this cheating stuff first, or we need to talk about that. We need to get in that first. And, you know, if you want to stay with them, great. Like, if you don't, fine. Like, that's your prerogative. You do whatever you want. But either way, you can get ahead of it and say, like, hey, I have some things I know that I need to work on, but obviously we need to focus on these issues first. But it's fine to, like, say, hey, I understand this is a two-way street. Just like you said, right? Making the kid was a two-way street. All of these things are true, right? I mean, like, he's wearing a condom with this other lady, but he didn't wear a condom with you. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things, you know? It's like, well, maybe you guys should have had a conversation about that. You know, like, hey, like, if we don't use a condom, then we might have a second kid. Like, is this something that we're okay with?
That seems like pretty basic biology that, like...
Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying, you know, you can have them with condoms and shit like that, but, I mean, like, but that's also a two-person conversation. You know what I mean? Like, you can also say, you can't have sex with me unless you have a condom because you know, we're not ready to have a kid or whatever. Like, all those things. I'm just saying, yeah, he's a piece of shit. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. Like, if you don't want to be with him, stop having sex with him, kick him out of the house. Like, I mean, that's pretty basic stuff. But there's also going to be some stuff that you're going to have to be reflective on of your own, right? Like, understand, what are you bringing to the table, and how are you not communicating in the way that is actually he's hearing? Because he's obviously not hearing how you're communicating, right? So honestly, I would say ask him that question. You know what I mean? Because he's probably going to feel ganged up on. He's probably going to feel those things. Throw him a little bone. You know what I mean? Throw him a little bone. And I'm not saying forgive him. I'm saying throw him a little bone. And say, hey, you know, like, you know, have I been miscommunicative with you in some form or fashion? Like, has there been something, you know, that I should have done a little bit better in any of these instances? And honestly, I think it's gonna soften him a little bit. It's gonna, you know, help some of this situation, because he's not gonna feel ganged up on, right? Because right now, what he thinks is, I made the biggest mistake in the world, which he did, but he's gonna feel like, oh, it's all on me and whatever, and she's just mad and all this stuff, and it's a one-sided conversation. Right. And that sucks. It sucks to have a one-sided conversation. It just does. You know what I mean? So that's how I feel, you know, about this. I don't really know. I mean, she didn't ask a question, so I don't really know what she wants to do, but it sounds like she wants to keep having sex with this guy. So good for you, I guess. But you know, I mean, I think I probably have the kid and maybe, you know, wait a little while to make any rash decisions, including continuing to sleep with this guy. Maybe stop sleeping with him for a while. Like, let's clear our head a little bit and let's figure some stuff out. But you know, like that, but this is my point. It's a different thing, because this guy's going to be the father of your kid. And so if you want him involved in his life, or legally he's going to be involved in his life, whatever it is, right? I mean, you know, assuming that he chooses to do so, that's a different thing than being in a relationship with him. And so that's what I'm talking about. Don't make those two things the same thing. Understand what you're doing in the relationship, and then understand that that's a different thing than with the kid. And so if you don't want to be in a relationship with him, but you want to have him as the father, then you could do that, but you need to be very clear about that and have good communication on that particular point, you know?
Fair point. Yeah. I mean, either way, this guy's in her life. They already have a kid. You know, even if this pregnancy doesn't come to term in some way, there's already one kid. So she's never going to be able to write him off. Like, stop having sex for a bit. Great advice, because you can't really make maybe the decision that you really want because you're feeling some connection to someone that's been away. And it also gives you a good I think that too, the other thing that I didn't really think about until right now when I was talking is, like, if you're kind of worried that your spouse is going to cheat on you again, and you're relying on constantly having sex to kind of fill that void, you know, like, make sure they're not, you know, having sex with anyone else. That, you know, like, that's not going to fix it, you know? And I think too, like, I'm not saying she's doing that consciously. I'm just saying I could see, like, you know, that happening as, like, going into, like, overdrive on it, because you're like, this kind of puts a little bit of a Band-Aid over a gushing wound for a little bit, you know, it keeps it together. You get the old feelings back. You know, you get what you want out of it temporarily. And it sounds like she's kind of it's not doing what she wants to already.
Yep, I agree. That's a good point. So I think, I think we did it. I think we broke it down. There was a lot to break down. Still unclear what this lady's going to do. Hopefully she heard some of this. Hopefully she understands what's going on here. She takes it the vein in which it was intended. Hopefully that's the case. But either way, I think we solved it. I think we helped her out. So that's fine. We're good to go on that. We got an email address. You can email us, if you got thoughts on this, you got other questions, that you think we should be tackling. And the email, what's the email? The email is
info.yourrelationshipsucks, spelled out, at gmail.com, whereas our Reddit name is You Are Relationship Sucks.
Right.
And you could use both. We source a lot from Reddit. So if you just inbox us directly, it saves actually like me time, because that is my job.
You slide into the DMs, like that's fine.
Yeah.
You can do that. Obviously, check out the, you comment on the video and all that stuff, like or subscribe or, I don't know what all those things are, but please do all that stuff. We got a podcast, which is literally just this. We put it in podcast form. So if you want to get us on the road, you can do that. It's the Your Relationship Sucks podcast. You can find that everywhere. So check out the other episodes, the series, all that stuff, whatever. We're boring people. That's fine. We appreciate everybody, who's listening and, following and all that stuff. We do genuinely appreciate that. So thank you. Hopefully, you continue to support. We can keep doing this. Otherwise, we'll be back next time. We'll be helping somebody else. Hopefully somebody who's taking a few less notes. We will be helping them next time with whatever is ailing them in the relationship world.